पगरे।
The magical journey of the 5 koshas begins with the coming together of the 5 elements to form the human body. Koshas are concentric sheaths. Deep within the innermost sheath lies the soul, yearning to unite with the divine. The formation of the human body is in the consciousness, even before we take birth. Much like the formation of the pot is in the mind of the potter before the mound of clay is even put on the wheel. According to yogic philosophy, Annamaya kosha, or the physical body, forms the first sheath. Life got established in Sundar Raja's body and mind, but because of his mother's illness, the 5 elements that make up the causal body were already in imbalance, leading to sickness and instability. Sundara Raja was born on the night of December 14th, 1918. The country was in the grip of an influenza epidemic. His mother, Sheshamma, had had an attack too, and both mother and child were not expected to survive. His father, Bellur Krishnamachara, was the headmaster of the only primary school in nearby Narsapur. Miraculously, both mother and child survived. He was the 11th among 13 children, and with a big head and a dark, frail body, the butt of his siblings' teasing. When Sundara Raja was 5, his father retired and the family moved to Bangalore. Three years later, Sundara Raja's father died. His parting words to him were, "I have struggled very hard in my youth. You will also have to struggle very hard, but eventually you will lead a happy life." At the age of 13, Sundara Raja was stricken by malaria, followed by typhoid. He was in the hospital for a month, but even a year after that, his health did not show any progress. He was so sickly and weak that he passed his lower secondary school exam with great difficulty. At 16, he was only 4 feet 10 inches tall, weighed just 70 pounds, and his chest was a measly 22 inches. The doctor suspected he had tuberculosis and there was no available cure. The doctor predicted that he would live for only 2 or 3 years. So his parents and siblings neglected his health, believing he would not live long, and Sundar Raja was sure he would die sooner than that. The situation was hopeless. The family was so poor that his brothers could not afford to pay his monthly fee of 3 rupees. With a timely letter of recommendation, he was declared a half-fee student and could continue his studies. Summer of 1934 saw Sundara Raja travelling to Mysore to be with his sister while his brother-in-law Sri Krishnamacharya was away. He was excited about seeing the Maharaja's palace, little knowing that the journey was the beginning of a momentous voyage. On his return, Sri Krishnamacharya told him to stay on and learn some asanas to improve his health. The word health charged him with enthusiasm, and he stayed on and joined the Maharaja High School. But life was far from fun. Though he enjoyed his school, he grew to be scared of his hot-tempered brother-in-law. He was not allowed to bring any friends over, and through his 2 years in Mysore, he could not make any friends. Krishnamacharya became indifferent towards him and ordered him to practice asanas without teaching him or allowing him to go to the yogshala where he himself taught. Whenever Sundar Raja asked Sri Krishnamacharya to teach him, he would say, learning asanas depends on one's karma in the previous birth. It was like playing blind man's bluff. And for several months, young Sundar Raja tried to twist and turn and bend his stiff body, scared to make even a single mistake for the fear of being caught by his guru. In this lonely and fearful existence, his only companion was Keshav Murthy, with whom he shared a room. Keshav Murthy was Sri Krishnamacharya's star pupil. Sri Krishnamacharya would wake up the lads at 4 in the morning. Whether it was the hard life, the tough regimen or something else, but one morning Keshav Murthy just disappeared, never to return. At that time, Keshav Murthy's disappearance made Sundar Raja's life even harder. His share of work also fell on Sundar Raja, and the poor boy was overworked, exhausted, and perpetually hungry. But such was the discipline in Sri Krishnamacharya's house that he could not even ask his sister for food. Everyone was to eat when called and only eat what was served. Worse, he met with an accident on a borrowed cycle when he went to Bangalore for his father's death anniversary. He needed 4 rupees and 8 annas to get the bicycle repaired. One of his sisters gave him 1 rupee, but he had to get the rest on his own. Utterly desperate, he was driven to petty stealing. Even then, it took him 3 years to pay back the balance. Struggling with poverty and ill health, the turning point in his life came in June 1935 when he returned to Mysore and Krishnamacharya indoctrinated him in the Yogshala in Keshav Murthy's place. Taking the place of the star pupil, in spite of his physical rigidity and his inability to perform the asanas, was a leap of faith, which the fearful Sundar Raja took with nervous trepidation. He never looked back. As Sundar Raja was to prove later, his karma in previous lives had certainly been good. Within a month of his learning a few asanas, he was awarded the princely sum of 50 rupees by the Maharaja of Mysore after his first public performance in the Mysore town hall in December 1935. There was no thought of a goal at that time. He took to yoga because of circumstances, not because of an inherent zeal or inspiration. His legs would pain terribly, and the backache was unbearable. Fearful of expressing his difficulties to anyone, for years he practiced the asanas mechanically. When his guru commanded him to perform the Hanuman asana, he did it even though he did not have the ability to do so and severely injured himself. His daily routine those days started with getting up at 4 a.m. and watering the garden and ended at 8 p.m. when he returned home after a tiring day of teaching and studying. Exhausted and aching with hunger, he was perpetually drowsy. Consequently, he became a backbencher, and for want of 3 more marks, he failed in English in the secondary school leaving certificate exam. This meant taking the exam again, and this was clearly beyond the means of someone who was unable to have even 2 balanced meals a day. Thus ended his formal education. Destiny was being very unkind to him at such a tender age. But it is only in the dark depths that the promise of a precious jewel lies hidden. Unlike in school, in the Yogshala young Sundar Raja showed promise. In 1935, having cleared the elementary, intermediate and advanced diploma course in yoga, he stood first with 98% marks. The year 1936 was a landmark in Sundar Raja's life. On a trip to North Karnataka with his guru, the staff at the Karnataka College took a keen interest in learning yogasanas. The ladies and girls demanded a separate class, and Sundar Raja was instructed to teach them since he was the youngest in the group. It was a great responsibility, and Sundar Raja did not think he was up to it, yet he took up the challenge. This was the beginning of his independent teaching career. The prana or life energy courses through the body, gaining momentum which leads to growth and more accentuated form. Pranamaya Kosh, the second sheath, is the organic body. Moving within from the Annamaya Kosh, this was the period of Sundar Raja's life when he got married, had children and took to yoga seriously.
It was not my ambition that I should become a teacher or something like that. Circumstances forced me to teach, and I took it with open heart, as I was not knowing any other subject in the world to make a living. Soon after, my guru asked me to go to Pune to train students in the Deccan Kana for 6 months on a princely salary of ₹60. My scanty knowledge of English, his work tilted the balance in my favor as one to be assigned job. When I came here in 1937, the challenge began. I was a free man, free from the clutches of my guru. I thought yoga was only about flexibility. And now that I have achieved the flexibility, what more will yoga show me? But I continued to be restless. So I probed deeper to find the cause of this restlessness. To gain confidence in teaching, I practiced relentlessly. The pain in my body increased instead of decreasing, but I was not scared of even death. I was practicing 10 hours a day as I was conducting classes and used to sleep in back arches because the pain would not let me sleep otherwise. People called me a madcap, but I was determined to either survive all or die practicing. Students used to ask me that you are teaching only asanas, but not pranayama. Why don't you teach pranayama? But unfortunately, I had not known anything about pranayama. So I asked my guru to teach me. And he just laughed and said that you have learned asanas, no doubt. But for pranayama requires tremendous endurance in the lungs. You are a TB patient, so it's very difficult for you to learn pranayama. But I was desperate that I can earn something and send money to my mother, as well as my brother, who has to be educated for their higher standard. And I had to make my living. So all these things were counted. Then I asked my guru, at least to tell me something. So he said, take a deep inhalation, just hold, exhale. Fortunately, as I was visiting in the month of May, I stayed with him for a week in Mysore. And I knew that he used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do pranayama. Then I used to peek from the window and see how he sits, how he starts, and how he practices. So by observing 2 or 3 days, then I said, I will also imitate him. At that time my age was only 20. People who had practiced for 30 years, 40 years, they came in the way, they said yoga cannot be done in public, they cannot be done in mass, so it's all wrong. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru also said to me, he's a Ayenkar, what does he know about yoga?
The pupils also became less and less, and the Gymkhana felt that it wasn't worth their while to continue the services. And after 3 years, his services were dispensed with.
So I started private classes because I had about 200 students at that time.
So I thought even 20 students come, I can leave. But somehow there was no chance. And I thought that whatever happens, I settle in Pune.
In the mornings, I used to teach in the cantonment and then beyond Erwada. In the evening, I used to go to the Gymkhana, Vithalwadi, and then National Defence Academy. People wanted me to go from place to place. Without cycling, it was impossible to reach them. So I had to buy a bicycle, Hercules bicycle for 30 rupees. I developed lots of problems by cycling 30-40 miles. Varicose veins, pain in my testicles and hernia. I would stop on the way and do Urdhva to relieve the pain and then start bicycling. I was uneducated, uncivilized from the orthodox Brahmin family. I was ignorant of everything. Students who came from my class made fun of me and pulled my shandy. I was submissive in the early days. Everyone treated me like dust. Their attitude made me more bold to accept the challenge of teaching.
I won the students, but somehow or other jealousy set in. And believe me or not, that within 6 months of my practice, they thought that I would become famous in Pune. So the gymnasts thought that best thing is to burn all the belongings to the institute and thought that now the class will not run. When I lost my job, I had to pay rent. And I was not getting funds. So what I used to do, some rich people who were there, who were my students, so I used to borrow from one saying, give me 20 rupees, I will return next month. So I will pay by installments. So they were willingly agreed. In order to maintain confidence in them, that I am not cheating them, so I used to borrow from others and repay 3 rupees, 4 rupees, saying next time I will pay another 2, 3. Like that I went on rotating.
After 3 years in Pune, I had only 8 rupees and no job. I found a very small room which I could share with other bachelors. The rent was divided between 6 or 7 of us and my share came to 1 rupee 50 paisa. It was really uncomfortable and I could not relax or think clearly. I was cursing God when I couldn't even get a meal for 3 or 4 days, surviving only on tap water.
The process of polishing and sharpening the facets of the rough diamond, which was later going to dazzle the world with its brilliance, was well and truly underway.
Every now and then my mother used to say, get married, get married. I knew that my financial position was not at all good, so I was hesitating. But when my guru insisted that I should marry, that he is teaching a lot of girls in Pune, so probably he is refusing because he must have fallen in love with somebody. So I doubt his character. So every time, the relatives used to come and they used to say there is a girl from this family, from that family. So my mother and my brothers used to say, yes, come and you can bring them. So when I smelt that something is going on, I used to apply oil to my body, to my hair, without taking shave for 2 months, 3 months, so that they could look at me and say, oh, he is just a madcap. No, we don't. He looks so ugly and all this. My mother could not believe. She started crying. Then I said, well, okay, but if you are all insisting that I should marry. Our marriage took place on July 9, 1943, when my wife Rama was only 16. After our marriage, Rama stayed on with my mother to learn our family customs, and I returned to Pune to find that I had lost all my students. The thought of not just me, but my wife suffering along with me was unbearable. I was actually crying, wondering what I had done with my life. 5 months after I got married, I got a call from a city girls' school to teach yoga for 50 rupees a month. I accepted gladly. I wrote to Rama to come and join me. I was earning now. This was the first letter I wrote after her marriage, as there was no money to even write letters. She came to Pune only with her Mangala Sutra, as she had nothing else to call her own. I had nothing in my possession to make her comfortable.
I had to borrow everything from my pupils, including a vessel, stove, kerosene oil. So she used to cook with one vessel, remove it, and then cook dal again in that same vessel.
There was a time that they really had nothing to eat. My mother said she just had some rice and she cooked that rice, and with salt they ate that rice.
Rama used to observe my practice but never interfered. However, in the course of time, she showed a keen interest in learning, and I started teaching her daily. As she made progress, I thought how to assist me towards improving my methods. My instructions to her during my practice made her to become a good teacher for women. I used to practice, I used to get exhausted, but every now and then the inner voice was singing, try, try, try.
From a raw beginner, he started developing qualitative intelligence as a student and also became a conscientious teacher.
At that time, I was thinking only of day-to-day survival. After all, now I had a wife and 6 children to support.
I was a child, 2.5 years. First, I used to have milk, but when this new baby was born and when new baby was to be given milk, apart from mother's milk, gradually my mother made me to switch over tea or coffee. We never had a tube light in the house. Just simple 60-watt bulb. We used to study under that 60-watt bulb. Simple food, chapati and vegetable. My mother used to say, what else we want? If it was a breakfast, it was the same thing. Lunch, same thing. Dinner, same thing. But I tell you, whatever she was preparing, if anybody comes at that moment, she won't say no to them. She will insist on that they should also eat with us.
When we went to sleep, both of us had a dream. Lord Venkateshwar of Tirupati came to me in my dream. He gave me a grain of rice and blessed me, saying,
"From this day onwards, your struggles will be over. You shall devote all your time to teaching and practicing yoga."
The goddess of wealth, Lakshmi, came to Rama in a dream.
"My husband and I owe you a debt which I want to repay."
From that day, the things started changing. At least on that day, he had 3 new students coming at his door to ask for the lesson.
March 4th, 1952 was a turning point in Guruji's life as well as into the world's yoga community. It was at that time that he met Yehudi Menuhin.
When Menuhin came to India, he could not play violin. He had read about yoga and he said, I should find to retool myself. He met almost all yogis of India, teachers of Nehru, teachers of Rajendra Prasad, and some or other he came to know that there is one man in Pune teaching yoga. So some doctors said that the way he teaches is more scientific compared to others. So he invited me. He said, I've got only 5 minutes, can you see? And when I met him, he was completely tired, exhausted. But luckily, I told him, do Shavasana. So I took Shanmukhi Mudra. This is Shanmukhi Mudra. So he slept for 1 hour. He said, I have not slept in my life like this, so can you teach me yoga? Then I gave a demonstration for 45 minutes. He was so much impressed. I said, now you have to show what you are doing. So he showed Shirshasana. The moment he did Shirshasana, he was gasping. I said, this is not the way to do Shirshasana. So when I took him Shirshasana, he felt so light and his voice changed, his breathing process changed. Then he said, why don't you come to England?
My years with Mr. Ayenkar remain vested in my memory especially those precious moments when upon occasion I caught that wonderful sense of peace and perfection, allowed me to glimpse a state of being which indeed was worth the effort.
We regarded our meeting as one of the great events of our lives. And then my weekly trips to Bombay started.
Guruji came to Mumbai every Saturday as regularly as the rising sun.
He would take the afternoon classes at different places in Bombay. I remember in the class there would be about 7 or 8 of us, and he would see to it that we understood the drill and did it with every fervor. After that was over, he would go over to his hotel, which was the railway hotel at Chani Road. On Sunday morning, he would go to a private tuition and then start his morning classes, starting at about 8 o'clock, finishing at about 9:30, and after that, he would catch train to Pune. Whether it was his birthday or his family's birthday, for 36 years he carried on like that.
People came to me with different ailments and different body structures. I learned how to align their bones, muscles, joints, ligaments and tendons to bring uniformity in their bodies in each asana.
The mind gains clarity, direction, skill and ability in the Manomaya Kosh, the mental body. In this phase of Sundar Raja's life, people were attracted to his teaching. He went abroad and critical mass gathered round him.
बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन वरण विराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा सा सा नि सा रे रे ने रे सा 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 नि सा रे रे ने रे सा सा नि सा रे ने रे सा सा नि सा रे ने रे सा.
People who only saw my success but did not know about the difficulties I overcame, as it was not my nature to talk about them or lament. In my demonstrations abroad, at first people thought I was just a contortionist, and I used to get very embarrassed. I used to be lonely and had no one to share my anguish for months on end. I did tell my children and my wife that you have to live a lonely life, I have to live a lonely life for the sake of yoga. So we have to think ourselves that we are separate for 3 months and the rest of the time we will be together.
I could realize that why he is going and how it's important when people are calling him to come to foreign countries to teach. But my brother and 3 younger sisters, they used to miss a lot and cry there only in the airport. When he used to return back, we could see him absolutely skeletal. He used to be absolutely like, you can't imagine.
Up to 1970, in the Western countries, vegetarian food was a really Herculean task. So I had to live only on honey, bread and coffee.
The English people thought that we are all slaves. They were treating just like dust. But to face them was a very hardship.
whomever was even slightly colored was not allowed to come and eat with the other. They were telling, okay, he will stay, but providing that he doesn't come out of the room and he will be served in his room. You see the humiliation.
The Pope was interested in meeting him after hearing that a number of priests were studying yoga under one of Mr. Ayengar's former pupils. During a tour of Europe, Mr. Ayengar met the 80-year-old Queen Elizabeth of Belgium, who after just 30 lessons surprised her physician by standing on her head for 8 minutes.
I said, Your Majesty, you are standing on your head. Do you know that? Are you happy? So she said, yes, I am happy. She had also a cardiac problem. She had a heart patient. That I came to know after 3 days because the heart specialist who came to examine her, he said, your heart has improved. You are taking medicine regular? She said, no, I have changed the medicine. There is a doctor who has come from India and he is treating me. He said, what medicine did you give? I said, I did not give any medicine. I made a test on her head. And she continued her till her death. What she taught me was that if you have faith in your subject, you should not doubt in the art of teaching. Lord Krishna's definition of yoga as equanimity, harmony, balance, and skillful adjustment acted as a guiding star in my sadhana. I began to refine my asanas, to experience and introduce these qualities in my teaching.
In 1962, Tarapurwala publishers contacted me saying that we want a book from you on yoga. Can you write? Then I said, whatever all know, I have to present, but I will not write a book by giving a dozen photographs and saying that this is yoga, which I was dead against it. Anyhow, I undertook to work. The expressions were not relishing at all. So I told my wife, I don't think I'm born to write a book. So she went on coaxing, try.
During the floods in Pune, she had highest concern for his manuscript of Light on Yoga, which had not seen the light of the day. So she took care to see that in case the water came to our house, it had to be preserved.
Light on Yoga has been considered to be the magnum opus on the subject of yoga. It's clearly the canon that is used to measure all of the other books on the subject.
The epic Light on Yoga took 7 years to come into publication.
The moment the book came out, the BBC people interviewed me. They said, Mr. Ayenkar, you have also said several times, as many said, that yoga can be learned only by a qualified teacher, but not through books. Now you have brought over books, what is your opinion? So I told them, a good book is better than bad teachers.
I was teaching a private lesson in my home studio, and the student walked in, very new student, only 2-3 lessons, and she took a couple steps in the door and had a full-blown asthma attack. She was bent forward, she was wheezing, she was gasping for air. I had no idea what was going on with her. She's panicking, and she barely manages to get out in between the wheezes that she's having an asthma attack, and that's how I knew what it was. And I had no idea what to do. So I decided to look in the back of BKS Ayengar's Light on Yoga because I remembered that there's a curative asana section in the back. So I look up asthma, and as soon as I find it in the appendix, I go, oh no. Because the first posture that's the curative asana for asthma is headstand, Shirshasana. And because this girl's such a rank beginner, and because she's having a panic attack and an asthma attack, I think, how in the world am I going to get her upside down? But I have wall ropes, and I made a pelvic swing, and I shoved her up in that pelvic swing and got her to go upside down. Now, what surprised me was not the fact that it worked, because I trusted it. Of course it's going to work. But what surprised me was how quickly it worked. Literally a microsecond after she got upside down, her breathing calmed and she was fine.
75 years after Mahatma Gandhi faced it, South Africa's apartheid policy came in the way of Mr. Ayengar's traveling to South Africa, where he would have been only a second-class citizen, a position he was not prepared to accept. The yoga enthusiasts in South Africa, not to be discouraged, invited him to Mauritius instead.
Guruji revolutionized and actually began speaking on the theory as well as the practice of what yoga was in his demonstrations.
Was the top leg toe also? As this toe is facing the floor, that toe is extended upwards. What I say, freedom from each and every part of our body. Unless and until the freedom is gained in the body, freedom of the mind is a far-fetched idea.
I work to unite the organs of action and senses of perception in order to connect them to the mind. I work towards cultivating emotional stability, which is essential for a sadhaka.
I had to build up that how to present my asanas in such a way that I should attract people and influence them to take to yoga by moving like a dancer from one end to the other end in order to see that the whole stage is covered by one person.
The famous American sculptor Robert Engman wrote to Mr. Ayengar, "It was absolutely the most incredible and most moving physical and mental expression I have ever witnessed in my life. I have never seen anyone master his mind and body with complete control the way you did." Engman, chairman of the Graduate Department of Fine Arts at the University of Pennsylvania, was so impressed by his performance that he made a sculpture and called it After Ayengar.
The yoga taught from the time of civilization is the only golden key.
His demonstrations have helped such charitable causes as the War on Want, India Famine Relief, Pune Flood Relief, Prime Minister's Relief Fund, Bhudan Movement, and Catholic Charities. Mr. Ayengar was a yogi with a difference. He did not conform to the then prevalent popular conception of the mat-haired, trident-holding, ash-besmeared sadhu. In fact, he rode a scooter and wore Western clothes. In those days, he practiced daily for 3 hours and said the day he stopped practicing, he would stop teaching.
I touched vastness. The unknown was still vaster than what I knew.
When he used to go to teach as a private lesson to their house, he used to use the bed, writing table, dining table. So these ideas came to him because people used to ask that how to do when you are not there to help us. Because otherwise before that his hands and legs were really the props.
When Patanjali speaks of Sabija Pranayama, supported Pranayama, Nirbija Pranayama, unsupported Pranayama, even in Samadhi, this terminology comes as Sabija Samadhi, Nirbija Samadhi. It struck me that there must be a state where asanas also need a support. So I started finding out means. These props are means where bija or the seed, where they would be attracted to practice.
Sometimes he is preparing chapati and then he knows that a round shape is required there for that body to support in that manner. He would ask for that. So literally she has to clean that where she is preparing chapati immediately. She has to, the napkin or this thing, she has to clean it and pass it on to him, and then when it returns back again, wash it and then use it for the chapatis.
All the time she told that if he has any success, it was because that motto, that energy, that Shakti was Ramamani, his wife behind him.
Her role was vital. Her atmosphere really diffused certain things and transformed certain things, and that's how the world was able to receive him.
When I was in the peak of life, she passed away. She was really a wonderful lady, very tolerant lady, very helpful lady, and looking after everyone with kind-heartedness. Both of us lived very happily for 30 years.
It was really remarkable. He didn't shed a tear. An ordinary man would have been shattered, but he took it in his stride. He hugged the children. He just didn't say anything.
Whenever we saw something beautiful, having a beautiful experience, having a nice flight, having something lovely, we thought if she was there, she would enjoy. Believe me, sometimes I felt that he is thinking so much of his wife that his wife was present with us as though she was traveling with us.
गीताबाईच्या इतकं सगळं चांगलं होतं ना की आमच्या माझ्या 3 मुलींचं लग्न सगळं त्यांनीच केलं. सगळं कपड्यापासून, दागिन्यापासून, भांड्यापासून सगळं त्यांनीच आणायचं. कधी आम्हाला पैसे द्यावं लागले नाही. कधी त्यांनी असं परक्यासारखं धरलंच नाही.
Raman was very keen on me building a house and an institute next to one another so that I could step out of our house and teach. She was very happy when we bought the land.
Planes from all over the world flew to Pune in January 1975, and his disciples came from all the 5 continents of the world for the inauguration of the Ramamani Ayenkar Memorial Yoga Institute. It was the first of its kind in these parts. The baking is the final test for the pot where it could crack or come out stronger through the final rite of passage. Vijnana or conscious buddhi takes root in the Vijnanamaya kosha or the knowledge sheath. As he journeyed further within, cohesion took place between awareness and consciousness, the heart and the head, and Guruji was able to share knowledge and impact the world.
After Rama passed away, the institute came up and is doing really well. Just the way she had always dreamed it would by the grace of God. Then I had my family responsibility to take care of. I was a family man, not just a yoga teacher, and my children were of marriageable age. I found them grooms, and Savita, Vanita, Sunita, and Suchita's marriages went off very well, as per our customs. Prashant and Geeta had been assisting me in my classes, as well as conducting independent class for a while now, and they decided not to marry and continued to assist me and teach on their own and manage the institute. I had taken care of all my responsibilities and life was peaceful and seemed to have finally settled into a daily routine of teaching and practicing.
Worldly goals had been achieved and it seemed that the final destination had been reached. But there was a bend in the road ahead with further challenges.
I had to think and act consciously in blending the intellect of the head with the emotional intelligence of the heart. So I further refined my practices by uniting them
as a single intelligence. Until I met with a scooter accident. Then my life took a completely different turn. Then after 1 month again, another accident. Scooter accidents were two. One I got injured on the right side, the second I got injured on the left side. So even the pain was even to me.
Because of his will, he came out of it, and because he came out of it, others might not think it was any major accident, but they were major accidents for him.
Not only I had the scooter accident, I had 2 heart attacks. Second time after I got the attack, I was very serious. I thought my life is going to end. Even voice I had lost. Then I did yoga for 2 years with great difficulty, but I had to depend completely on the props to practice. So I restarted, recharged my battery, my intellectual battery, and brought back life into my body.
It was this phase that tested Guruji's resolve in asana and yoga the most, in yoga asana the most. He resolved that until I regain my form, I will not cut my hair, and it is after that time that Guruji started growing his hair to what it is today. In 1982, Guruji then trimmed his hair for the first time, having regained all the postures that he could perform just before his 60th birthday, especially postures like Hanumanasana, Vrishtikasana, Natarajasana, and Kandasana.
After all those accidents, he gave demonstration at Barbican. I was there. It was in May 1984, which was an amazing demonstration. He didn't complain again about anything. As a student, we knew that she had some problems. But the entire demonstration turned out to be an amazing success.
Guruji's experience with self-healing after his accidents and heart attacks has extended to his pupils and to anyone who suffers from modern-day diseases like heart ailments, back problems, depression, or injuries and accidents. As he says, health and well-being is the starting point of yoga.
Health is nothing but awareness of life's energy. The various facets of health follow the flow of life's energy. Each and every part of our body has to ring with the sound of health and intelligence.
The relaxation and breathing techniques taught by Dr. Lamaze and made famous by him were taken directly from lessons given by Ramamani and B.K.S. Ayenger.
Results. Every year I check in with my doctor and do an MRI of my brain, and the white matter lesions have actually subsided. I feel great, and it's given me a big whole new lease on life.
The remarkable thing in him is that when he comes near you, he induces a limitless courage in you to do any posture that I want.
The moment I touch the people, and second time, even after a break of 10 years, my pores of the skin immediately feels the roughness or the smoothness of that skin of whom I touch. And then I ask them, did you come before? They say 10 years, 12 years ago, I had been to you.
He designed, asked us to try out a whole sequence of exercises. We have realized that when we use these sequences, amazing things happen. People who have CD4 counts that have dropped to less than 500 have jumped to 1300.
बीके अयंगार गुरुजी का योगा करने लगा, मेरा thinking pattern change हो गया. I forgot to think I am a HIV patient.
They come alive, and sometimes they do things which they could have not done at the age of 20 and 30. They are able to do at the age of 50 and 60.
the beginning of the Barbican demonstration, Guruji in Tadasana made an ongoing, uninterrupted and very, very long inhalation and exhalation.
This is inhalation.
Even though Guruji had tuberculosis when he was young, a test on his lungs at the age of 66 showed that he had the lungs of a 25-year-old. The doctors were amazed and said his lungs were like those of an Olympic athlete. Another test conducted on him at the age of 89 within 5 minutes showed a reading of 5 breaths per minute. The machine had a reading of 20 for a healthy person. This shows that his breathing is very subtle and his exhalations very long and slow, indicating how absolutely calm and peaceful he is. From day-to-day survival, his journey had transformed from the goal of his own health to one encompassing the health and well-being of all humanity. Was there anything left to achieve?
I began relearning the asana to bring unity between the elements, intellectual awareness and flow of energy. This made me experience the revolving movement of energy and awareness while going into the asana, staying and coming out of it.
Because of the practice, the energy that I get to reach out to people is amazing.
There is no such thing as Ayenger yoga. Yoga is yoga. It was given by the creator Brahma, but Patanjali between 500 BC to 300 BC codified it, and hence we began calling him the father of yoga.
Guruji explained Patanjali's ideas in ways that were accessible to Westerners.
I'm a co-investigator with Kimberly Williams from the University of West Virginia, who funded the first low back project on how to use Ayenger yoga to overcome low back pain. It got published in a journal, in a peer-reviewed scientific journal called Pain. Likely that helped us then to get funding from the National Institute of Health, Complementary and Alternative Medicine, known as NIH. We got a grant from them for $450,000, again to study Ayenger yoga and how it helps low back pain.
His compassion and love know no bounds. With the use of props, he has invented postures and positions such that every single person, no matter what his affliction, can experience the joy of the ultimate posture.
I repeat, refilter and refeel every experience of mine to derive the best out of it so that its essence is experienced. And this essence is what I pass on to you.
It's like milk. Can talk about, the price of milk, the texture of the milk, the color of the milk. But still you won't know that milk until you absolutely taste it.
There will be people who will make you do a pose, but he is one person who will make you feel that pose. The space of the pose, the texture of the pose, the breadth of the pose, he puts you, of course you have to surrender to him. You cannot hold yourself back.
His intensity is making every cell of your body vibrate and come to life, and at the same time your mind is completely focused inwards. It's completely quiet. You're absorbed in that pose.
Cells are nothing but the galaxy of the stars in the body.
There were times when I felt like, there is a complete barren land, there is nothing coming out, the sun is too hot and it's only dry and dry and dry. There is this one rain and then the grass sprouts out of the ground, and that kind of a life he puts in a person.
When Guruji touches me to correct me, say for example he corrects me in the pelvis, through my pelvis he has accessed every part of my being. Through the asanas he has accessed all the other parts within me. So by correcting my body he has corrected my mind. He has accessed my life ultimately through my body.
He is a man of unusual prowess, unusual glory, unusual luminosity, unusual heat in him because he is so vibrant.
For me, the only way I could be faithful to my celibacy was through yoga. It is Ayengar Yoga alone that has brought together people of all denominations and religions together. He has been able to do this because he goes to the heart of religion. His teaching has made people in the West and the East and all over understand their own faith.
Always his dream is that yoga must be taught from the young age, because if the seeds are settled in the young age, then that can create a generation of high yoga practitioners, yogis, which may change the face of the universe. Ayengar Yoga teachers, they are teaching now Ayengar Yoga in many schools, in different countries, in many universities also it is introduced. In America there are Riverside University in LA, where there is Ayengar Yoga, which is taught as a subject. And now in Częstochowa University, which is a very big polytechnic school in Poland, the program is just going on. It will open soon, a full course on yoga. That means that bachelors and masters in yoga, and which will be based on Ayengar Yoga.
Guruji really was the first yogi to be teaching large groups of people.
There is not almost any country where there are not Ayengar Yoga centers nowadays.
Family, good health, Guruji had it all. Surely this must be the culmination of the eventful journey. But shimmering like an elusive mirage in the distance, the sublime destination beckoned.
Though he has taught and influenced millions, he still ends up being spontaneous and very childlike, and with a real enthusiasm about living.
The Ministry of Federal Star Registration has copyrighted a star in honor of Guruji, and it's the Mono Saraswaba 30M 49SD plus I 29, and it's in the name of Yogacharya BKS Ayengar.
Maybe that's where I will be practicing after I leave the world. Jati, Desha, Kala, Samaya, Anavichinna, Sarvabhauma, Mahavratam. Yoga, the greatest mighty universal force, unconditioned by place, time and class, belongs to the universe.
and hardy, the pot is complete. Hollow within, experiencing the vastness of the universe within it, while also being surrounded by it. Guruji is fulfilled of all his desires. In the Anandamaya Kosha, he experienced the true self, the soul, divine consciousness manifesting in effortless joy of truth, consciousness, bliss.
This dream of giving some shelter, food, education to the children of my birthplace. Whatever money I can earn from my books, particularly Light on Life, where I asked them to pay royalty in advance, which came to about 20 million rupees. If God gives me life for 100 years, I can give whatever I earn in my life to my parents' trust, so that the interest they earn can maintain the program. If I have 10 million in corpus, then education here can continue to be free. Free books, food, yoga centers, healthcare, and whatever things are needed. This school was started in 1967 and was the only primary school in this village till 2005.
Almost anybody in this village has studied in this school only.
Many, many years ago, we used to call him Sir or Mr. Ayenkar, but now we affectionately call him Guruji, but we gave him that name. He didn't take that name because he's a simple teacher.
The reason why many of us touch his feet or treat him with such reverence is really because he has shown us what man's true potential is. This is not treating him like a god, but treating him like the human that we're all trying to become at some point in our lives.
His spirit of poverty, I really see him, and that's the same characteristic of Mother Teresa.
He's a divine personality, but he has that amazing power of becoming a simple human being like you and me in the daily life when he is with us. But keeping always that divine light igniting within. The light is there, but outside he becomes like us.
Abhayam sattva samshuddhihi jnana yoga vyavasthitihi dhanam damascha yagyascha svadhyayastapa arjavam ahimsa satyam akrodha tyagah shantirapayshunam daya bhuteshvalolutvam mardavam hrirachapalam tejah क्षमाः धृतिः शौचम् अद्रोहो नातिमानिता.
The light is shining brightly, radiating like the sun. Absorb it if you can, because it gives, gives, and gives.
The bliss I experienced made me probe further to understand where this unlimited joy was springing from. It transported me to the infinite light of formlessness in the emptiness of universal consciousness.
With the culmination of the Panchkoshi sadhana, all the Maya dissolves. The seeker completely disappears, and only the seer remains, beyond the elements of matter and form, observing, in the alert, passive state of Manolaya.
I go out there now, and I know I get a lot of adoration, but that will make me egoistic. So I'm here doing my sadhana, living a life of vairagya in the midst of all my loved ones. I'm inward, but not attached. It would have been easy to run off to the mountains, but I know this is where the learning continues.
Even at the age of 90 now, I practice for 3 hours every day. But now only this year in me dissects my practice. The day I stop practicing would be the day when my consciousness loses its contact with the body. When I practice, I am neither in the future nor in the past. I become really innocent and inquisitive. I accept the new experiences with the joy that comes throughout my practices. My mind is watchful but completely quiet. Through this innocent and watchful practice of mine, whatever comes to me, I share with all my students. Come, join me. I'm eager to share the treasures with you. And integrated the 7 states of awareness: the body, the senses, the breath, the mind, the intellect, the intelligence, and the consciousness to experience the lost state, that is, the self or the soul. No words can describe what I experience now. It is beyond sound and words.